Welcome to Harmonious World. This week, I'm delighted to be joined by Sheila Simmenes. Thank you for joining me, Sheila.
Thank you so much, Hilary. I'm really glad to be here.
So this album, Love Was Easy. Tell me when you wrote the songs, and you recorded them in Brazil and Norway. So that's exciting.
Yes, I mean, this album has taken a long time in the making. We started actually in 2015. I went to Brazil with one of my mates. He's a brilliant 8-string guitarist. And we started writing the songs together. We got in the studio in Niterói, which is right outside of the city of Rio de Janeiro, but in the same region. Got in an amazing studio there. Got to work with a brilliant percussionist, Robertinho Silva, who has played with legends. And we just started recording there. And then those files kind of, I've been a little bit scared of my own music, you know. So they were left for a little bit. It's just got to simmer and grow before I found the right producer to finish the tracks with, in the amazing Björn Olav Rosch, who you might know from Secret Garden, and he works with a lot of wonderful names, and he has the right combination of being your biggest cheerleader and teacher at the same time. So in him, I found like, okay, this is a safe haven for me to finish up these songs and to finish this album. It's something that's kind of followed me with my music and developing as a musician as well. It's just, I've taken a long time, and sometimes taking the long way round gives you the most beautiful views. So actually, we finished the album in 2018 and didn't release it until last year, November. It's a really fresh album because, of course, we were affected by COVID, and that pushed the release a little bit until I decided that it was time. I'm just really, really happy to have it out now, and I'll be getting such wonderful feedback, and that's for a little songwriter who's doing most of the things herself. It's amazing to finally have the music out there.
Well, it's interesting because I listened to the album when I first got it and went, oh, I like this, but it was just a kind of, yeah, I like it. And then when I went back through to try and work out which tracks that I want to put at the beginning and the end of the podcast, I honestly, you should see my notes. I've written one down and then I've crossed it out and gone to the next one. And then I've crossed that one out and gone, no, back to the, you know, they've all got something. They're all very different, aren't they? They all show different aspects of your voice and of the musicians. And it's a real variety.
Thank you. Well, I'm a little bit of a musical sponge. So one of the reasons why it's taken me such a long time to kind of finalize an album and come out as an individual artist has been because I love everything, and therefore I've played everything, I've written everything. It was a huge relief for me when I realized that I could actually write music for other artists, because before that I would be writing reggae and pop and hip hop and soul and jazz. And so I had a reggae band, a pop band, a jazz band, I was going in all different directions before I realized, oh, I could actually be doing this for other artists. So that's also something that I've been doing for the last few years, and giving music to other artists instead of trying to do everything myself. And so this album is probably the biggest kind of culmination of finding my voice within it all. But it still takes the hints and the vibes from these different directions and styles that I am inspired by.
Yeah. It is a beautiful concoction, if you like, of different styles. And I love that.
Thank you.
So talk to me about the musicians that are on the album.
Oh, I have been able to pick my favorite bouquet of musicians. So both Norwegian and Brazilian musicians on this album. From Brazil, we have, as I mentioned earlier, Robertinho Silva, and also Peter Mesquita, which is a longtime friend and collaborator of mine. And from the Norwegian side, we have Fredrik Salander on bass, we have Tove Bråten on trumpet, we have Michael Block on saxophone, Per-Ola Kobbestad on the 8-string guitar, JC Rojas on violin. There's actually so many people on this album. I'm sure to forget someone. Eirik Ask on the piano keys. And also Bjørn Ole Rasch on some of the keys and played some of the analog synths. Trygve Tams Lykke on drums. Oh, I am sure to forget someone. But you can also go to my website, SheilaSimmenes.com. There's a list of everyone there. There was a journalist actually who said this quite nicely. He gave me a compliment that I'm very proud of. He said that for Sheila as a musician, one of her biggest strengths is finding her power and music in other musicians.
Yes.
So because when in the songs also I the compositions of my music is it's not very rigid. Like I have some lines that I wanted to do something, so I compose some of the brass lines, for example, or have like, oh, here I want the bass to do this, and but it's very free, so I give a lot of space for my musicians to flourish and to do their things and put their voice on thing. And that's also why I really handpick who I play with, and I've taken a lot of time to find the right people to do this album with, because they instinctively know what I want. I can just let them go. Like the pianist on this album, for example, he is amazing, and he's absolutely best when he's completely unprepared. He is such a lyrical, wonderful magician, who just, if you just put him in front of the piano, have like a little bit of chords, he can have a sheet or he can just be listening, and he'll just absolutely wonderful. And that's the kind of people you want to create music with.
Yes, and that definitely comes across on this album, that it feels really collaborative, and that you have been very generous of allowing people to play their interpretation in a way.
Well, they've been really generous to allow me to have them on my album. It's really my honor.
Oh, very good. Tell me about your lockdown. So obviously this album was all done. So how did the pandemic, the lockdown hit you?
Well, I made more babies.
Yeah. I saw that on your Instagram.
Yes. Well, it's in Norway, the lockdown has been a bit on and off, especially in my city, Kristiansand. We initially were pretty, well, everything closed down like in March, everyone was super scared and we didn't know what was happening. I remember going for a walk with my oldest daughter then in her stroller, taking her for a nap, and just like the streets were empty. It was just like really eerie because there was so much uncertainty at that point. We just were hearing these horror stories and we didn't know what was going to happen. And so things opened up a little bit, got shut down again, went for this for a while. In the culture sector in Norway, a lot of people had to, everything was cancelled. For me, being a new mom and being pretty much in that child bubble, it was a different experience. Everything got smaller, the people that we chose to see and spend time with became more valuable. We created our own little bubbles and we saw friends that were the closest and dearest to us. I live in Kristiansand. My family is from Bergen. They live in Bergen and Oslo. My husband is also He's English, so his whole family was in England. We were pretty isolated here, and we had to kind of make our closest friends our family, and support each other through the challenges.
Yeah, so that must have been wonderful for your parents and for his parents to then see the new child.
Yes. Oh my. And it took some time too. It took some time before they were able to.
Yes. Yeah, I have several friends who became grandparents during lockdown, and one of them, in fact, her daughter is in Australia, and so she still hasn't seen her grandchild, which is terrible. But
yes,
yeah,
it's been a time, I think, especially for musicians and artists. We've seen examples of how music has been able to give people comfort and help and be a little bit of a lifeline, at the same time as our livelihoods as musicians has taken a pretty hard crash around the world. But it's in any crisis, any sort of tribulation, big or small, like national, international, or if it's just something that happens to you and your family, music and art and poetry is the first thing that you go for. It's what we use in funerals, in marking days and anniversaries of people passing and things happening. The role of the artist as a speaker and performer of emotion, of comforter, a healer, has been more visible during this period. I think a lot of musicians have had to really look at what they're doing and think about it in a more profound way than we did earlier, because it's been so, looking for the right English words for it, sorry, English is my second language.
Of course.
Gravity of who we are and what we can do, and find our place in these situations.
Yes, absolutely. So what does the future hold?
Well, Norway is finally opening up again now, hopefully for the last the last time. We'll see what happens. We take it, baby steps. So as of right now, we don't have any restrictions here. And I just got booked to go to the Azores for a songwriting and performance residency. So I'm going to be finally getting out of my second baby bubble. Writing music has been challenging when you have a baby on your arm. So what's happened is that my phone has been filled up with voice memos. So because I sing to her all the time, referring to my second daughter, she is now 8 months old, and singing to her when we get ready in the morning, singing to her when I try to get her to sleep, singing to her when we take a walk. And those melodies, sometimes something sticks. And so I have my phone just bursting with ideas, and I'm bursting to put them down on paper and to start recording and to really start working on this. When she starts kindergarten, I'm going to be stuck in the studio all day, I hope.
Very good, very exciting. Look forward to the second album. That's going to be amazing.
So much. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yes, and it will have a different aspect, won't it? Because it'll be post-pandemic, post two babies. It'll be a very different you in that new album.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to. I have started on this project that will be the next album, and I will be collaborating even more broadly with musicians all over the world. With the album that I've released now, Love is Easy, I was there physically for most part. Like, I went to Brazil, I recorded there, I went back, and I brought Peter Mesquita to Norway. He was in the studio with us at Christian Sand, and we got to be there, everyone together. So now I will be working more remotely, and it will be more a case of people recording in Brazil, in Paris, in London, and sending everything back and forth, and we'll be composing more of that global international collaboration, which I love, which fascinates me. It has a lot of challenges, but through the pandemic, we have gotten used to collaborating in this way. You don't necessarily have to travel to go and work with someone. And as we hopefully are coming to the end of this pandemic now, I still want to make this record as a kind of commemorating this period. And I hope to also gather the stories of how these musicians that I collaborate with have been impacted by the lockdowns and pandemics in there. So I really wanted to also, with the albums, write more about the stories behind it, have more of a literary aspect to it as well, where I can contribute. On my website, you can also see I've started with, for this album, writing the behind the song stories, where I tell a little bit about the background to each songs and how it came about writing it. And this is something that I hope to do more of in the future, and to share more of the songwriting process and the stories, because it just gives you a different way to also connect with and communicate with your listeners.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the use of technology like that is really quite, it's brilliant, isn't it?
Oh, and don't get me started on VR and everything that we can do there in the future.
That's right. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time, Sheila. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Hilary. It was a pleasure.
I'm so addicted. I got this habit and I can't seem to kick it. It fills me up inside. My hands are shaking.
Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Harmonious World, and I hope you enjoyed listening to my conversation with Sheila Simmenes.
Knees shaking, how can I make him feel this? And my heart goes, oh baby, this could be love.
At the start of this episode, you heard Here We Are, and now we're listening to Could Be Love, and both are from the album Love Was Easy. Please do check out the online links in the show notes, and thanks again for listening to Harmonious World.
And I'm daydreaming, before we even start, I'm believing that I should have your heart and it's easy. You should be mine. I might be foolish, but I don't even care, so let's do this. You're gonna break my heart, but I knew this. I'll tell you it's fine. Oh baby, this could be love. Oh baby, this could be love. I keep falling in love constantly, breaking my heart, but I believe could be love.
Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook, and it's a great delight to bring this series of discussions with musicians and composers and writers and all sorts of people to you. Obviously, there's no point in having a podcast if people aren't listening, and I'm very grateful to my listeners for doing so. Thanks also to Joe English for composing and performing this new theme tune. So wherever you get your podcast, you can leave a review. You can share this with your friends and family, either as a link or on social media and that sort of thing. I'd be really grateful for that. Don't forget that you can subscribe now. There's a link wherever you get your podcasts. So have a great week, and please remember why I started this, which is just to try and make the world a little more harmonious. Thanks for listening to Harmonious World.